Missing out all the awesome work.
I
Yeah, I want
loved
to
it.
run
I
that.
loved it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday. It is Friday. It is episode 6. The cuts have happened. We're talking about it. Look, like a true veteran. Mary said, "Yeah, that training camp stuff, not doing that anymore. When the rubber meets the road, I'm gonna show up, and here she is, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody, y'all know the drill. You know what? In honor of Mary as well, I was going to run our new clip. You know what? For one last time before we get to regular season, I'm running last year's clip. I'm running last year's intro. Let's go.
BJ Nix, are you here?
Present.
Do we
Present.
have Spoonie, Timothy Spoonie?
Present, sir.
Margaret and Mary. Do we have a Margaret and Mary?
Yes.
Cool.
And the
All right.
margaritas.
The whole class here. We're ready. Let's go.
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
This is the time to line up behind your team, to support your team. Have faith in that team.
You know, it's peaks and valleys. You know, it can't always be good. And as I always tell people, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are. But when we do know about
House call. Tremont Diggs, pick 6. Coming, they see it. Knocked away. Oh, Gregory! Hurts in trouble. 3 Cowboys wrap him up, make it 4. Micah Parsons is unblockable.
yeah, man. Look at Mary already dropping at her back already.
Right.
All right, see, Mary, you missed these preseason reps, and this is the stuff that happens. Look,
My bad.
training camp matters.
Apparently it does.
First and foremost, man, shout out to everybody in the building, man. What's going on? That Cowboys one-handed Bennett, Steve White, Wrench Gang in the building as well, too. I see you, TC. Man, going to have a fun time tonight, talking about this 53 a little look past and present, if you will. And maybe a little college. I mean, college is kicking off. Boy, it's in full swing now. And kind of touch on some of that a little bit as well. But with that being said, first and foremost, Mary, I'm going to roll out and go here. How was your Friday? And welcome back.
Very glad to be back. I started out trying to take a little break, and then things just piled up. So I'm very happy to be back. And I'm glad it's a holiday weekend, and I'm excited to talk more football with y'all. I missed y'all a lot.
Hey. It's a reminiscence of old Robert. Let the Star Gang still live. It still permeates at the root. Look, everybody's like, oh my God, it's Mary. You know how many questions we got about you? And I'm like, hey man, she's coming. Just wait. Just wait. just hold on. I don't know when. She keeps telling me she's coming, but just worry, she's coming.
Yeah, man. Life happens, man. I got back as soon as I could.
There it is. With that being said, Dom, wrapping up another good week in the old educational stand of things. How we doing this Friday, brother?
Man, you know it's another blessed day. Anytime I can hop on with you guys too, makes it that much more special. And I'm excited with some of the segments that we have tonight, kicking off the college football season. Really, it's now full in effect, but tomorrow is when the full slate of games really start to happen. So I want to dive into some of that because, you know, I'm Mr. Draft guy and love my college sports.
It's a big tip for Professor O. I know you're ready for them Bulldogs to get out there and get after it again. But outside of that, good sir, how we doing this Friday?
Yeah, Georgia Bulldogs. We don't start out with a hard game, but we're the not one but two-time back-to-back national champions. So excited to kick off that three-peat attempt. So we'll see how that goes. Man, I'm just happy football's back, and I'm so excited Mary's here because I wasn't sure when she was coming. Mary just did this thing, dropping from the Raptors when we weren't expecting it, NWO style. So it's great. Nick said, "Mary, how's your Friday been?" And I'm like, "Mary, how've your last 27 Fridays in a row been?" We missed you. It's nice to have you back.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back.
Yeah, big facts. All right, well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, y'all know the drill, man. You came in here, make sure you hit the like, right? Make sure if you haven't hit the bell, man, hit the bell too. That way, you should already be subbed, right? But free 99 to tell a friend, as always. We'll be here all year rocking for sure. Well, let's get into it, right? We got a little 53-man roster to kind of get into. Cuts finally came down, and practice squad is handled up as well. And this thing, officially is ready to roll into week one, right? They have the combatants that they're ready to rock with. Not that this roster doesn't churn at times and different things. We kind of all understand that, right? But they are locked and loaded, and here we are. So with that being said, and we'll do one. I'm gonna go around the block here. One surprise first. Let's do one surprise that made it. One surprise that made it. One surprise for you that made it.
I mean, I hate to take the low-hanging fruit, but
Do what you got to do, brother.
Being the surprise guy, sometimes you just gotta take what's there for you. Take what the defense gives. The defense is giving this one. So Hunter Lipke was a guy a lot of us liked during the draft cycle. Early on, and he kind of got a cult following amongst the Cowboys fan base. Didn't really have much news from him in rookie minicamp. Didn't really hear much in training camp. Pat Walker said early on in rookie minicamp that they seem to have OTAs, that they seem to have a plan for him, but he just kind of, was there. You didn't really hear about him. And then had the big breakout game, if you want to call it that, in a preseason game. But, he put himself out there in conversation and got the roster spot. So he's the guy that, a lot of us hoped would get a chance to make it, and he made it. So that's Aaron's in the chat. I should have picked that one. I didn't even pick the low-hanging fruit now that I saw that name. But I'm going to go with Hunter Lipke. He's a surprise name because there was a lot of conversation on if it would be, Sean McEwen or who else, or Malik Davis or whoever else could have been on the roster. So I'm going to take him as the surprise that made the team.
That's a trade. That don't count. The trades don't count. And we talked about trades last week. Dom, the one person that surprised you that made it.
Before I answer that question, I want to go back to a word that Matt said, and I want you to kind of give a little bit, just expound just a little bit. You used the word plan, that there was a plan that they had for Hunter Lipke. So just based on what you know about him, how he was used maybe in college, but what we've been able to see thus far, what do you think the plan will be for Hunter Lipke coming up in the season? Because in Cowboys Nation, his keeping was also a controversial one because it seemed to knock off a darling that everybody had in Isaiah Land, who got claimed.
No.
By the Colts.
Pause. Hunter Lipke making the team had nothing to do with Isaiah Land getting cut.
Mary.
Pause.
Oh, we know. But
Sean McEwen didn't make the roster because it was going to carry 4 tight ends. Now, let me be clear. I'll let O answer the plan. No, I'm sorry. That's my guy. You triggered me now. Look, Sean McEwen. Look, we talked about this tremendously, whether it's the spaces or even on the show last week. It was going to come down, and I have the tweet out there. I was like, look. I will risk Sean McEwen to waivers to keep Hunter Lipke. Is where I landed at after he has his opportunity against the Raiders and what he did. That's it. That's how he made the team. Not Land. We can talk about whoever that might have been. Not Land, but Sean McEwen is the roster spot that got ultimately axed in favor of Hunter Lipke. But by all means, sorry, I got tricked a little bit. My fault. Go ahead with that plan talk there.
It's okay. It's all right. So in terms of the plan, a lot of us thought, he was used as a big halfback in college, but he did take snaps at tight end. He did take some snaps at fullback, but he was primarily a big running back.
Right.
We all kind of I shouldn't say we all, but a lot of us saw and kind of projected he's probably not going to be that in the NFL. He's probably going to switch more to a maybe as a receiver, maybe more blocking stuff. So, what you think of in a fullback mode, and then training camp and preseason came and we didn't see him do that. So then the conversation was like, okay, well, maybe that's not the plan for him. And then Mike McCarthy in the press conference yesterday was asked a question about John Kuhn, former fullback in his offense in Green Bay, and said that's a great comparison. I really like that comp because of what John Kuhn was able to do as a inline blocker, also do some single back stuff, get in space as a receiver. He mentioned all the stuff that we all thought would be the plan with Hunter Lipke. So that's the plan. That's what he's going to be. So if you're looking for a guy that's going to have, like 80 carries or something, that's not it. You're probably looking at a guy that has 17 or less carries, but he might also have 15 or so catches. A lot of his usage is going to be as a special teams player and a blocker. So if you're expecting a massive impact, you're probably not going to see that, but you will see little splashes here and there. And that's kind of the plan with him, because you have a Tony Pollard on the roster. You have a Deuce Vaughn on the roster. You have a Rico Dowdle on the roster. So you don't really want him to be taking a lot of carries away from those guys. However, situationally, short yardage, red zone carries, things like that, you probably will see some carries there. So that's the plan. If you want to talk about Kyle Juszczyk, that's the dream. We hope he becomes that guy. But John Kuhn's probably a better comp for him.
Voch with the
oh my gosh, Voch is not having it.
You'll be okay, Voch. You'll be okay. Trust me. By like week 6 or 7, you'll be like, you know what? My bad, Hunter. I'm gonna see that. I'm gonna see that tweet come from Voch. My bad, Hunter. But Dom, again, back to the topic at hand. The one player that made it that surprised you,
Neville Gallimore. I mean, that's the one for me, because a lot of the 53-man projections, you rarely saw his name, and you look at his career thus far. Picked in the 3rd round, immediately they play him. He's doing well. He gets 9 starts his freshman year. Then the 2nd year, he's down to 4, and he was injured. Then last year, down to 1. And whenever you see a guy playing for 2 consecutive years late in preseason games, that's never a good sign. So with the addition of a Jonathan Hankins, whenever they traded for him and then brought him back as a unrestricted free agent, Mozzie joining the team, Bo seeming to start to come alive a little bit in the preseason. I thought Neville Gallimore was good as gone, but yet it was Bo that they let go, and now we have Neville still in the team. So maybe this 4th year is a special year for him. We talk about the growth, the time it takes for defensive tackles to develop. So maybe they have been seeing something, and then the buzz has been that Sharif Floyd is the one that's likely saved his job. Brian Broaddus dropped that a little bit the other day. So kudos to him. But yeah, that was the surprise for me, Neville Gallimore.
10-4. All right, Mary. Who player that made the team that surprised you?
I mean, this has already been said, but my immediate reaction when I saw the final 53 was 4 running backs. Right. I did not believe that we would keep 4 running backs. So that, I mean, obviously is very interesting. I know, we had Deuce Vaughn look really good. We had Lipke look really good. But in no realm of possibility did I think we would ever keep 4, because we've all talked about before in past seasons how, it was even 3, keeping 3, we hardly ever used the 3rd.
I mean, Mary, I remember a point in time, me, you, and Spoonie, which salute to Spoonie. He's out. Spoonie's not here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because he's out in the Dominican Republic.
He's living his best life.
He's living his best life, enjoying his wife's birthday. Salute to Miss Spoonie and her birthday. They're having fun. But I remember a point in time, and one of your hot takes back then was the Cowboys were going to keep 2 running backs, just Pollard and Chip, and lo and behold, we were doing the 53. It came to fruition.
Yeah, exactly. So I was shocked. Because even if somebody looks good, them keeping 4 when they barely even used 2 really is a big deal. So that was a big thing for me. And I think it's huge that Sean McEwen, is off the roster, because they usually love keeping that many tight ends. So
right. Yeah, no, I'm with you there with the tight end side of things, but how they kind of moved Hunter in the plan and what he can bring, and McEwen, I think ultimately they felt he would get back here in waivers, and he did. So they're kind of covered on that base as well. I think the guy for me that made the team, excuse me, a little bit surprising, and not that he had a bad preseason or anything like that. Wanye Thomas, I'm kind of surprised he didn't make it, and some of that's them making the choice of going hella light at linebacker with basically three. I mean, we can say Michael Parsons is a linebacker, but ultimately it's three there, right? And Wanye makes it. And again, Wanye had a phenomenal camp and he had a good preseason, but I was just surprised he ended up making the final 53 over a guy like Land. Voch, if you're still here, and maybe that's why Land isn't here now, but neither here nor there on that front. But yeah, Wanye Thomas for me, I was like, oh, I'm happy for him, and the work that he put in to make it here, but I was a little surprised that he made it to the 53. So we'll flip the script here. The guy that you're surprised that got let go. And I'll go with Mary first, perhaps. I don't know if she's ready. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Mary.
Hold on.
See, Mary, preseason stamps matter. Mary, preseason stamps
You're muted.
matter.
You're muted.
You're muted. You're not ready. She thought she was ready. So I'll leave this trade again. You're still muted, Mary. There you go. I think
go ahead, Mary.
now.
I'm having technical difficulties. So honestly, I mean, it was Kelvin Joseph. I'm so glad we traded him. Like, I cannot express, I cannot express how glad I am that he's gone. I mean, he didn't get cut. He got traded, but them doing that, I would have given him away for free. So I was shocked. I was shocked. I didn't think they would do something like that. We are very used to Cowboys. Even though this is a different staff, we're used to them holding on to guys for dear life because they picked them early, and trying to make them work. And I'm so glad he's gone.
All right. Okay. So surprised they actually traded Kelvin Joseph and got him out of here. Dom, a guy that you're surprised that didn't make the 53.
A little bit of surprise because of the lack of depth at the linebacker position. It'd be Jabril Cox for me. I mean, we were all excited whenever we saw him make that nice sideline play against the Giants. Solid hit. We've been rooting for him in his development, coming back from injury. But to see him off this squad, it wasn't like the biggest shock, but you just thought after the overshown injury, like, all right, he's got to make it, right? But yet, here we are. He's off that roster. So that was a little bit of a surprise for me.
All right. Professor O, the player that made the 53 that surprised you, or got released, excuse me, that surprised you.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2 for 2. Isaiah Land, I think I understand why he didn't make it from a roster dynamic situation. Although I thought he did enough that they would find a way to do that, whether that was ouching somebody or trading somebody. I thought they were going to try to make that happen. Sometimes you play the game and you risk it for the biscuit, and we didn't get the biscuit this time. Somebody snatched him up, and only like 2.7% of the players that hit waivers were claimed. It's not a huge number. It is what it is. The Colts saw something in him too and snatched him up. So kudos to them. Hopefully it works out well for him in his career, and maybe he'll come back in Dallas one day, like we've seen previously with guys that left and were able to come back after being claimed on waivers. So we'll see what happens with his development, but I am surprised. I thought they were going to have him on the 53. And Aaron he is not a fan of Noah Igbenogany, and I feel like he needs to watch more film on him, maybe. Again, I'm not saying he is going to be a top 3 or 4 cornerback, but he said he's a horrible cornerback. He is better than Kelvin Joseph. If you watch this film, I don't know how you could possibly come away that he's not a better player than him. And he can play outside, and we don't trust Kelvin on the outside. So I definitely understand that trade, although I'm not expecting a lot from him. I think he's going to be a special teams guy. But when you're looking at him versus Kelvin, that's an easy decision for me. But again, when I say that, I don't want you to come away with like, the Cowboys got a killer's steal in this trade, because that's just not it.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to point out the same reason why Big Bo Quentin Bohanna didn't make the team is they basically have two one techs and they want to keep three one techs.
Mhm.
And really,
Yep.
the big key moment of Joseph being out of here was on the day of the 53. They activated Jordan Lewis from the pup list. He was going to make the team. Well, guess what? You already have Bland in the slot. You already have Jordan Lewis. They're not going to keep three nickel corners, so they had to move where they were a little light was outside just because of the injury to Nashawn Wright. So you make a trade and basically, okay, we have a guy that has been okay for us in the slot, but not outside. And, it's been indifferent. And you're going to give us a guy that's more outside than inside that hasn't worked out, been indifferent. So we just kind of, here, y'all get this, we get that. Y'all need a nickel. We need an outside. It works that way. Another key point about him as well, say his last name from again. Oh,
What?
Ig Benogany.
I just call him monogamy.
Ig
Can I just call him
Benogany.
monogamy? I know he'll probably get mad at me for doing that. I call
So
him
it's
monogamy.
funny when he went to Auburn. When he went to Auburn, the head coach there just called him Iggy and said, "I'm not even going to try to learn his name," which is
That's
crazy that your head coach would say that. But
right.
Iggy is his nickname, just like we have Izzy
Yeah.
already. So Iggy and Izzy.
Right.
Iggy's
Izzy
the easy
and
way to
here's
go
the
with
thing,
it.
and here's the thing that comes with Iggy. You do kind of get a guy that can back up your kick returner now. If you go look at what he did in college from a return standpoint and what he brought to the table. So you do have some things there. So this guy here with 1 year left on his deal, outside look, we're hoping we don't lose any of our outside corners, right? In Gilmore or excuse me, Diggs. But you get more in special teams from him too. So where you had maybe a special teams guy where Kelvin Joseph was a gunner, but they're bringing back Goodwin. But you have a guy here, if you need him to return for you, he can do that. And now you have some depth on the outside. So, it obviously you lose the 1 year of control in the contract because Kelvin Joseph had 2 years left to this 1 year. The Cowboys, in my opinion, are not going to pick up the fifth year option on him. But we just kind of have to let it play out. And it's just one of those trades that kind of, hey, ain't working for us. Oh, he ain't working for y'all. So it's a trade, and we see where it goes. I'm going to piggyback too with you. Land not making it as much as they played him and exposed him and what he did. Like I think we were all of the same mindset. There's no way. And look, and I know every year, right? It's if you release this guy, there's no way he's coming back. But it's one of the power positions, right? And what he was bringing to the table and what he was able to do and the numbers what they were showing is just like yeah, he's probably not making it back. So
Yeah.
where Dom sees Gallimore making it, well, could you done something there and kept him right? Could you did the old veteran wink week deal with Dante Fowler Jr.? Hey, chill out for a second, we'll cut you, let us make these roster moves real quick, and then we'll bring you right back and take care of it. But they are deep at edge, because they basically bring back everybody they had last year, and then you add Junior in the mix as well. And we're talking about just a defensive line, you're adding Amazi Smith in there too. So I get it. It's one of those things that sucks. Obviously, we'd luck to have him in here, and what he was able to do. But it just happens. Look, y'all saw me out here crying when I lost my guy last year in Ridgeway. Y'all saw it. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the nature of the business, unfortunately. And wish him all the best of success up there in Indianapolis. And look, unlike say a Dennis Houston or a Jabril Cox who ended up in New York and daggum Washington, at least he's up out of here. We ain't got to worry about seeing him at no point this season. But
I think Jabril Cox is a great one too. I mean, especially as from what we heard report wise, I know Pat Walker was really high on him in OTAs and said that he was starting to look like that full player again. And I didn't think he had a terrible preseason, and we're light at that position. So I am surprised. I'm surprised and I'm not. He's one of those guys that like I understand it, but also because of the depth in that room, I thought we were going to keep him. So best of luck to him elsewhere. But let's go team safety. We're 6 safeties deep.
Super deep. And that's the other thing too.
They're
Like
gonna play
LB. Man, and we talked about it. And we talked about as soon as Overshown got hurt and what they what these guys need to do and the physicality from him. To me, just didn't show up enough from the linebacker spot for them to say, look, what's the difference between his physicality versus Bell or Wanye Thomas's coming down into the box? And I think that's what ultimately hurt him in that realm. But on the back end of that, I mean, they got Jefferson back onto the practice squad, and it seems like that's going to be the path. That's the backup here for the 53, main roster for the linebacker. But it's still very light, even with the Jefferson back in this building. This linebacker room is very light. So Harper still needs to come through and walk through that door, and it'll be interesting to see how they operate, with the Wanye Thomases and the Bells, and how they want to see them transcend and do things, maybe closer to the box.
I'm glad you mentioned Harper too. He's a guy I wasn't really particularly impressed with him last year when we drafted him, and he had the injuries, didn't really do a lot. I thought he was really impressive in preseason. I'm actually
Yeah.
excited about his development and
Round the ball a
maybe
lot.
seeing him on the field. Like he's around the ball a lot. He's physical, like you just mentioned what Jabril Cox was lacking. So I'm actually excited to see him. So that's a nice development from a room that needs that development. So we'll have to see how that looks in the regular season and how many snaps he gets. But he's a guy that the arrow's pointing up compared to last year. And I don't want to say when you have a late round pick like him, you're not expecting him to explode on the scene anyways. But the jump from last year to this year already is pretty substantial from what I saw in preseason versus the year before.
I mean, theoretically, he pushed Cox off. You could say he pushed Cox off the 53, and that's huge for him coming off the injury season for sure. Mary, we sat here and went through some things with the kicker, and you kind of skipped out on us, missing talking about the kicker. But that boy Brandon Arbery made the 53, Mary, and he made that 59-yarder against the Raiders, and he missed a 59-yarder against the Raiders, and he's your opening day kicker.
I mean, I'm just gonna pray. I'm glad that we
light the candle, Mary, on Sunday night. Light the candle.
I mean, I'm liking the new offense so far, so I'm just hoping, a lot of it won't matter. But I'm praying for him to be great. I'm glad we moved on. I think it's important that we actually moved on, so we'll see.
All right, a little bit of puckering, if you will, for those who understand, when he has to line up here and maybe kick a field goal, but we'll have to trudge through it because now we are turning to the regular season. All the fuss and no muss is over, and we're all, systems go.
Excited.
All right, and the pedal to the metal. So let's look at where this team is at going into week one versus, say, last year going into week one, right? So, let's start with the offense here from you. Where do where's the wins? Where's the losses in your opinion? What do you think here with this 23 opening day roster versus the 22 opening day roster?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is bold or not, but it's how I feel, so I'm just gonna say it because that's what we should do as fans. I don't think there's any losses from last year to this year. I think the offense is substantially better. I mean it. I think the offense is significantly better equipped going into week one this year than last year, because last year we didn't have Tyron. We have Tyron this year. Last year we had Tyler playing left tackle with very little prep. He's playing left guard and had plenty of prep doing that. This year we have an actual wide receiver room. We don't have Dennis Houston rolling out there. We have Brandon Cooks out there. We have a healthier Michael Gallup out there. We have a Jalen Tolbert that is a year removed from his rookie woes and is starting to hit his stride. So the only potential spot I could say maybe we took a step back in would be tight end, but I think Jake Ferguson's ceiling is higher than Dalton Schultz, and I like the tight end room as a whole. So for me, I think the entire offense is better than last year.
All right, Dom, we got some pushback here in the comment section. Said he's forgot about Zeke already. Dom, offense. Offense. You want to? I mean, you can address it before I go to Dom.
I mean, I'm excited with Tony Pollard and what he can do in terms of explosive plays. It's not a knock on Zeke. It's just the reality that Zeke's not the same player later in his career than he was earlier in his career. And fresh legs matter, especially at running back out of all the positions. So, again, that's not meant to be a slight on Zeke. I just feel like the running back room now has more juice than it had last year, and that matters.
Fresh legs.
That's just my take. I wasn't trying to bash Zeke. It's just how I feel. I feel like the running back room is better right now than last year.
Yeah.
Going into
we have to understand too. We have to understand as well too. It's a different scheme, and this has been from the very outset, right? Of we need the power back, right, from the fan base of what's been talked about, like how they're going to handle, even before Zeke was released, if he's not going to be here, what they're going to do. He got released. Oh my God, but he drafted to do all these different things. And the one thing I've tried to very much so convey, and y'all have to, is like, look, in this scheme, it's not going to be what it's been for 10 plus years in Dallas, even going back to DeMarco Murray. they're going to use the short passing game as an extension to the run game. You're going to see Pollard. You're going to see Deuce. You saw it with Rico, but even in the vanilla scheme of offense that they're running in preseason, you saw the extension of how they were using the pass game going into the running game, right? And you saw the Ricos getting the catches. You saw the Deuce getting the catches. So those things definitely matter in that realm and what they're doing. And so, not that Zeke can't catch the ball per se. I'm not saying that, but it's a different type of running back that maybe they were looking for as well, because even going through the draft and who they end up drafting, Deuce Vaughn, look at what he did. It's a different type of temperament that they're looking for when it comes to that. But brother L, here's the thing, my guy. He hasn't been able to stay healthy with the knee. No one's sitting here and asking or campaigning for Zeke to be bad. I want to actually go up there and kill it in New England and do his thing. But there's obvious looks that things have went down bad, right? The first 3, 4, 5 weeks for us, it's to the moon. He's Zeke's back, and then it slowly kind of, trails off. And yes, same knee 2 years in a row, and hopefully he can stay healthy and do great things. But it's almost like the Kellen Moore situation. It needed to be a separation of church and state in order for things to possibly get better. But nothing but love for Zeke and what he's done for this team. You cannot tell the Cowboys' entire history story without Zeke being a part of that. But for the Cowboys to move forward, it was just time to move on. Pivoting back though, Dom, opening offense here in 23 versus opening offense in 22.
Somewhere, old Cowboy, a boy crying in the corner when you talking about Outlaw. Outlaw somewhere crying in the corner when you talking about his boy Zeke. Like
I know, yeah, it's an Outlaw wherever he's at.
And you got to say definitely that this team is a lot better on paper, because we still got to go out and play the games. But this team definitely feels like a better starter team, and definitely in some areas better depth. And I just like the way that Steven and Jerry have finally stepped away from their way. You've preached about this for season upon season. Like, they like to do things their way, whether you like it or not. They have a certain philosophy in how they attack things. And the way that they finally addressed free agency, the way that they even address trades, you can't look at that and see where they didn't get better. No, absolutely they got better. So the receiving core, 10 times better. Offensive line starter, because you got the experience that comes up. You got a healthy Tyron finally rolling into a season. You're already better there. On the defensive side of the ball, oh my Lord.
Oh, pause. We'll get to defense.
I wasn't going to go through any players, but I'm just saying, like, it feels like a balanced team.
Yeah.
It feels like a well-balanced team where you don't have a significant area of weakness. So finally, where we had the lack of explosiveness, which caused us the game against San Francisco, they were able to double Lamb once Pollard went down. That's all we had. We had a really slow team. We couldn't spread anybody out. And even when you try to do some bunch type things, we didn't have that skill to even make that work. Now you got a whole offense full of guys with speed who can beat you various ways. So, yeah, definitely a better situation going into this season than last.
Shout out to Outlaw showing up out of the Raptors.
He said, I can definitely accept Zeke's reality. It doesn't mean I have to like it, though. And that's totally fair as a fan. That's totally fair.
Completely fair.
We all love Zeke, by the way.
Absolutely. Here's the other thing, too. Oh, and Dom, I'm just going to plug this in because y'all needed to go one more spot over in the offensive line. Y'all both talked about that left side. But Tyler Biadasz, from opening day last year to what he is now, is a night and day difference. Because last year I was like, hey man, this dude ain't calling out the protections. He's got to have the guard. I was like, he's got to walk through the damn door at this point, standing and going through it, as compared to now, Pro Bowler, put it together last year. So not just having, obviously, as y'all mentioned, Tyron actually here ready to rock, the full complementary of the reps where Tyler's going to be there, but also too, Tyler Biadasz's, development from last year. And again, we're talking about week 1 versus week 1 here is all we're talking about. But where we thought Tyler Biadasz was going into week 1 last year to this year, very much so a night and day difference.
Yeah, and it's funny because we're all talking about Tyler Linderbaum last draft. And I mean, he went out and he had a nice season for the Ravens, but what we saw Tyler Biotish was nice. And what I liked in his development was the agility, the lateral agility to be able to, go and get into his own block, be able to scoop block, bucket block, like step. He was doing it all. And then he's been working on more of that this offseason. So you see a center in him going into year 4, primed and ready to even make an even bigger leap forward. So shout out to whatever Biotish is doing in his off seasons.
Shout out to Big Duke. Big Duke's been putting in that work with him. Shout out to Duke.
Exactly.
I think we have to mention Terrence Steele too, though, right? I mean, Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele coming from last year, week 1. That was it. There was the conversation the year prior, right? Collins was out. Steele gets in, played pretty well, but it was a small sample size when you're looking at the course of a season or a career. Collins moves on. He gets his opportunity to start. And, I mean, from week 1 and onward, you could tell how big of an improvement he was in our run game. Then he gets injured, and you see the difference statistically from him there versus not there. And not only just in the run game, and pass pro, too. So having him back, knowing what he is now compared to what we thought he could be week 1 of last year, like, I feel better at right tackle. I feel better at left tackle. I feel better at left guard. I feel better at center and right guard. I mean, Zach got paid, so Zach's good, right? We don't have to talk about Mr. 99.
Yeah, 99 gang. Yeah, 99 gang in the building. No, Zach, he's back.
Yes.
We ain't got those problems like maybe, somebody you go send a Nick Bosa or somebody out there in San Francisco. Then we ain't gonna talk about that though. We got our guy up in here, so we good to go.
And
Mary, this go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought it.
I'll get to Mary eventually. It's fine.
Yeah. My bad,
Walk it
Mary.
out.
Hey guys,
I'll get her reps
I'm
in.
here
She gotta get her
now.
reps in anyway. She's been going a while.
I'm glad you brought up Steele, because I know a lot of people listening probably would hear that and go, well, what about the injury? And the thing about it is, for offensive linemen, ACL injuries aren't as big of a deal as it is for the skill positions. Mm-hmm. And to me, like a guy that you can go and look at as a case study to see how did he respond, how did he bounce back, was a guy who was his same age, got hurt at the same point at the end of the season that Steele did, in Jenkins over for Green Bay. And he was able to return within 8 months. Didn't miss a single game the next season for Green Bay. And the same timeline has happened for Steele. Steele looks like he's not going to miss next week. He'll be starting for the Cowboys, and he looks great. And I like how Mike McCarthy mentioned in his presser a couple of days ago, like, he does everything we ask him to do. You've seen the growth out of him. I like his movement skills. So shout out to Steele again. Another Cowboys offensive lineman who's putting in the work in the offseason.
10-4, and definitely, and we kind of talked about that last year a little bit, Dom, whenever Tyler Biotish had the high ankle sprain, and here comes the playoffs, but he was able to set a couple of weeks to come right in and play and do well. So even another point there to the injury and be able to come back because of what they do. So yeah, for sure. All right, Mary, this offense from 22 to 23. Go right ahead. I don't know. There's some bones and residue around here, but I'll whisper. They talk about the coaches, but go ahead.
No,
that's what we should have started with too.
Right.
Even before I knew what we were going to talk about today, I was thinking about this earlier in the week and a difference between how I felt going into last season versus how I feel now. I was so apprehensive about that wide receiver group. I was pissed. I was so mad. Noah Brown, I made it no secret how I felt about him over the years. And, okay, 4 or 5 wide receiver, but like, why are you starting at 2 or 3? It's weird. Why are you doing that? And why is Dennis Houston out there? Like, it just, and like I said, I think I said it back then, like, really not their fault. They are who they are, and the team tried to make them something that they weren't. And now, we got Brandon Cooks. Gallup is fully healthy. He started the season. Obviously, Lamb. So extremely happy about that. Extremely happy about our running backs and what they can do. I've seen Cowboys fans online talking about, we still haven't signed a 3-down back. And I'm like, Why they're like really worried about this 3 down back situation. They want one guy because that's what they're used to. And I'm like, why do you think that we have to have this one guy that's going to do everything? I don't this is like faster. They can catch out the backfield. Love Zeke, but it was time. It was time. It was time to go. And then also, we mentioned Tyron. He's healthy. We got Tyler, who had to start the season at left tackle when he hadn't really practiced much left tackle. Now he's going to be a left guard, and he's had more practice at left guard, and he's coming off a good rookie year. We have Tyler Biadasz, like you said, coming off a good year. And we have Terrence Steele coming back. That's super exciting. We have a great starting OL that hopefully can push through all the way through the season, which is, we had so many questions last year. We didn't know how Jalen Tolbert, he's coming back and he looks a lot better.
Great training camp for him. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And then, obviously the play calling, I'm just excited about that new step, but yeah, I'm tons more excited. Going into last year, I had we had James Washington, who had already gotten injured, and we're like, oh, hopefully he can come back. Hopefully Gallup can be healthy.
Fine. Yeah. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. Oh.
And that
depressing state of matters.
Yeah, you're at that point trying to convince yourself, like, yeah, it'll be okay. Yeah. But
and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I feel like 1,000 times better. I was so excited to talk about this offense because I feel so much better.
Right.
And Dak is another year removed from some of his, injuries.
Yeah, he didn't have to rehab any injury for the first time in 3 years. So a big uptick there for him for sure, Mary.
And he called those plays in the last preseason game. The offense looked good. It seems like they're all really confident in what we have going on right now, and that's a great feeling going into this new season.
Big facts, and then I'll put the cherry on top real quick. You have a different offensive scheme, right? You have a different offensive line coach, a different offensive line coach, a different play caller, and a different coordinator. And these guys are pretty much tied at the hip in what their vision is and what they want to get to. And of course, we're talking about McCarthy being the play caller. We're talking about Schottenheimer being the offensive coordinator, and of course, about Solari being the offensive line coach. And they know what they're trying to accomplish and get on board. So, yeah, I just think night and day difference from last year to this year, from all the different reasons y'all talked about. In general, and the coaching being on the same plan. So it's exciting to see where this offense starting point is this year versus where it was last year. But let's flip it to the defense. Going into year 3 here, Professor O, of, Dan Quinn's experience. Obviously, the big hit, right? The big hit with Overshown's injury. But overall, where they're at, things are happening, 22 starting, 23 starting. Where do you land here with this defense?
Yeah, let me just sip some Kool-Aid real quick. I feel better about the defense this year than I did defense last year too. I do.
Let's go.
I feel better. I just do. I do. I feel like I don't want to say we're better at safety because we still have the core top 3 guys coming back, but seeing Donovan Wilson, it feels weird saying he's a breakout player because you already saw shades of it, but he exploded last year. He's one of the best safeties in the entire league last year. So having him with Jaron Kearse, with Malik Hooker, and Malik Hooker, the growth from him from year to year, as he continues to get healthier and he gets used to this defense, he's comfortable, and you're able to see him, in the single high looks, being the roof guy, and he looked really good too. So the safety room is exciting. The defensive line, Micah in training camp was literally unblockable. Unblockable. It doesn't matter who he went against. He was unblockable. So Micah's he's going to have one of those seasons that, we may talk about years down the road, what Mike is going to do this year, which is really exciting. We have one text in Dallas. We have one text, lots of them.
What?
More than one.
Fatties, Mary. We got our fatties finally. We've been begging the table forever for.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you guys plenty of opportunity to talk about other positions. But we have safeties, and I'm really excited about that. And we have some one techs. I'm excited about that. So you guys go ahead and talk about the rest of the guys.
All
Or
right,
those
Mary,
guys, whatever.
Yeah, whatever, Mary. Defense going into 22, going into 23. Where do you land?
I mean, man, we're on season 5 right now. We used to be starting when we started season 1, but like all we talked about was safeties and fatties on this defense. Safeties and fatties. We wanted them so bad. It's been a long time coming. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's a song out there that talks about long time coming. We finally made it. It took us 5 years, Mary.
Yeah.
It took us 5 years from Stargate to Dadgum, Pick Six. But damn it, Mary, we arrived.
We are here. And if you would have told me that we got here without having to, we had to calm Spoonie down for so many times about every route and giving up first round picks.
Yeah. For any safety.
We got here without doing that. That is crazy. Like, this is I am so happy. We are the depth. I saw some Giants fans saying who's going to cover Darren Waller, and I was like, bless your heart. Like,
right.
Like, not even worried. Like, it's so exciting. I cannot even. It's weird to be in a situation where you're more happy about your defense than you are with your offense if you're a Cowboys fan, and I cannot wait to see what they do more. I cannot wait.
10-4. Dom, defense 22.
Oh, one more thing I want to mention. The thing with Jordan Lewis, even that, where they talked about how he went through some huge depression.
Right.
When he was injured and he wasn't answering texts, he wasn't answering phone calls, and the coaches just showed up to his house. Like, those are things that, when you're on the football field, when it's game day and you're tired and you think you're getting beat or you're having a bad day, that he's going to remember. Yeah. And that's huge for team morale and how they play on game day. So that's just really exciting.
Big facts. That's a great point. Dom, defense 22 opening week versus defense opening day week, year 23 season.
So I'm about to say something, and I don't mean it literally, just figuratively.
Okay.
I've always been a big fan of having a mixture of choir boys and car thieves on the team. You need a good mixture of those.
Okay.
Interesting enough, I feel like the addition of a coach, Sharif Floyd, as a defensive line coach assistant, I think he got a little bit of that car thief in him. Like, what he wants to be able to bring to the table as far as hitting guys in the mouth. It's not all about just slashing, but sometimes you got a two gap. And so that whole philosophy that he's bringing about being tough mirrors exactly what they're trying to do on the offensive line side with Solari, as well as that smash mouth approach. So the fact that a guy like Neville Gallimore seemed to be a surprise, when you really think about it, it's not so much of a surprise, because I think he's now going back naturally to the 3-tech position, which it seems like he's most comfortable in it, because we got the fatties, the 1-techs, where Mozzie can help play that role alongside of Hankins. So you look good right there in the middle, and that's going to help our linebackers, that we say are thin in numbers, be able to protect those guys. So I like what I see from the interior already. I think car thief guy, Sam Williams.
No, he's definitely a car thief guy.
He got some other issues with cars going 50 miles over the limit, but just that mentality, that approach.
He's improved.
Right. But, him going into his second year, you want to see what does he have. And then you got your vets that you can rely on, like a DeMarcus Lawrence. So I think overall Dallas has improved what they look like up front, and then bringing in the talent that they brought in to help with the cornerback situation. Anytime you can swap out Anthony Brown for Stephon Gilmore, even if Gilmore isn't the guy that he once was, it's still an improvement. So overall, you definitely got to look at this defense and feel like it's better on paper than what it was last year.
Yeah, I think simply on this number only, 11. I talked about it last year a lot, from year 1 to year 2. And I said, he's going to be better in year 2 than year 1, because this is how the natural progression of the NFL is. These guys they have their big jumps from year 1, year 2, year 3. By year 4, you kind of know who you have. Sometimes you'll see another progression down the road, but typically that's what happens. 11's going to have another jump this year, and we're already seeing it in training camp anyways.
Definitely.
So as good as he was year 1, I'm pretty sure he was going to be better in year 2. He was. And from year 2 to year 3, he'll be better than he was in year 2. That's just how this thing kind of works. And when you have that kind of impact player that can dictate, with a guy like Dan Quinn who understands, I'm going to move him and do things in half system, move him around where you can't key in on him, that allows other guys to go out here and get the job done. And then, of course, the Cowboys going into week 1, as we're talking about, we're going week 122, week 123. Also, we upgraded quarterback 2, which was a big bugaboo for them. So yeah, I think it's just it's a tick up. In where you are, yes, be worried about the linebacker depth to a certain extent. I understand that side, but I think overall, wherever the Kool-Aid is, pass it over to me. I too am drinking some Kool-Aid right now when it comes to this defense from week 1 last year, week 1 this year.
Nix, one thing I want to say too, to piggyback off of the Micah conversation, is in addition to the physical leap we've seen year after year and what we've seen in training camp, him as a vocal leader, like he's becoming one of the faces of the NFL. Like he's not just an elite defensive lineman. Like you don't, and again, I'm not saying this is a knock towards the Bosa's or anything like that, but Mike is kind of like transcended above that now, where he's kind of like one of the names you think of, like an Aaron Donald. Like there's a small short list of guys you talk about, but in addition to just the respect factor, Micah, from a personality standpoint, has taken on that, hey, I'm bringing you guys with me one way or the other. I want to win a Super Bowl. He's on Twitter. He's in interviews. He's doing the, it wasn't the Cowboys State of the Union, but whatever it was, where they had players up there talking to, some of the media and fans and stuff like that a week ago. He was like, bet on it. I'm going to be in Vegas. I don't want to watch games from the press box anymore. I want to be on the field. I'm winning a Super Bowl. Like he's speaking it into existence. Like that's our mentality. It's not, hey, forget, we got to get past the divisional round. He's like, no, that's not even what I'm thinking about. Our goal is Super Bowl. Like I'm saying it. I'm not just saying, we want to make these baby steps. He's trying to drag us, pull us, push us, whatever you want, to that finish line, and that's exciting to see. So I want to give him credit for that too, because it takes a lot to put yourself out there. I mean, if it goes wrong, a lot of people are going to bring up those comments, and he's like, I trust in myself and what our team can do. I'm going to say it because it's how I feel. So shout out to him.
Yes.
Mary, I know you have an engagement to get to, so salute. Get you on out of here. Do what you got to do. So her week 1 had to be her preseason, so I think you got all the bugs worked out now. Moving forward.
Yes, I'll see you guys next week, definitely.
All righty, Mary. Have a safe and enjoy your night.
Bye.
All right, and then we'll wrap here with no, we're not wrapping yet. We got so much to talk about, but on the 22-23 list, special teams, because y'all know me, special teams matter. Dom, special teams opening 22 versus 23. Better, worse?
I gotta say worse, but here's the thing. This is what Dallas does with special teams, especially with the kicker situation. I mean, you go back to Dan Bailey, he was a known from his college days, but it wasn't like it was an automatic thing where he's going to do well. And we've seen how these top kickers are coming out of college and they're not doing anything. Cade York was the top guy 2 years ago. Cleveland's already let him go. We saw the top guy in this past draft missing kicks already in preseason, where Aubrey is doing better than him right now. And so we got the guy out of the USFL. So it's one of those wait and see type things, because last year Dallas really wasn't that confident coming out of camp. Yeah. And in fact, Bones talked about it during camp. He was asked a specific question about the two guys that they were working with now. And he was like, I actually like their competition, the way they drive each other compared to the guys we had last year. It seemed like they were excited to be there. They really didn't push one another. It wasn't like we're competing against each other. We're here. While these two guys are crushing it, competing, but also still helping one another out. So Maher did great during the season, but then whenever we saw the very end and then the playoffs, he got
Yeah.
to take the yips. So I would literally just have to say, it's a little bit worse.
It's a push for me because I think we're talking about just strictly week one. It's kind of where we are this year, right? We felt good about Turpin. We knew who Anger was. The kicker, we don't know. We got to pucker up the first week or two where it's at. So I feel like we didn't get better. I don't know if we ultimately got worse. To me, it just feels really the same. I think we're like in the same position we were last year. It's something I think ultimately we were really hoping the Cowboys would, solidify this offseason was the kicker position. And look, ultimately maybe he pans out. That'd be great. But I think week one, I feel about the same.
I think that's fair, which is, and again, I feel bad saying that for Brett Maher because he had kicked in the NFL, and we're talking about a rookie,
Right.
a USFL player, who had never made a 50-yard field goal in his life in a game until the Raiders game. So shout out to him for nailing a 59-yarder. But, the last stint Maher had with us, the first stint Maher had with us, I should say, before coming back, wasn't good. Fans hated him. He leaves, kind of bounces around, redeems himself for the Saints, and came back. But still, it was kind of an unknown commodity. We didn't really know what we had, and he became Money Maher. And during the preseason and training camp, I was harping on the kicker a lot. He's kicking 35-yarders and 31-yarders like every day at practice. Like, can you see him if he has a leg or not? And in preseason, to his credit, he has a strong leg. Like, he was booting pretty much all the kickoffs out of the end zone, so he can be Mr. Touchback guy, which is cool. And now that the regular season is here, I'm not trying to kick field goals anyways. We have a good offense. I'm trying to be aggressive and go for it. So Super Bowl on the line and it comes down to him kicking, I'm going for it anyways. So that's just how I roll. But again, I would have felt better about him going into it had he, kicked 8 or 9 field goals or something like that in preseason and, made 8 out of 9 or something like that. But it just didn't happen. So we have an unknown commodity, and maybe he's that dude, and maybe he's not. Kicker's one of those positions that you have a lot of guys that are not big name guys. I mean, that position, there's over 100, Division I colleges, and in the NFL right now, at any given time, you have 8 or 9 good kickers. A lot of teams are in that situation. I mean, the Titans had Randy Bullock, moved on from him, brought in 2 kickers, let them go through a tryout, released both of them, then made a trade for a kicker, and then they released him, and now they made another trade for a kicker. And there's a lot of teams around the league that are in that situation where there's just not a lot of good guys out there. So maybe this guy can be solid enough where we don't have to worry about him. And if he is, then I think we're in good shape. But yeah, I would agree. Kicker is iffy. We don't really know what he is right now, and I'm just hoping we don't have to rely on him anyways. And maybe he'll prove us wrong.
Yeah, they're the cut. Man, we were seeing people get traded. Will Lutz got from New Orleans got traded. Nick Folk got traded. There was another guy that got traded. Yeah, it was crazy seeing how the kickers trade. But that's the 22 week 1, 23 week 1. Putting a bow on that. But man, I mean, I know college football kind of started last week. Boy, it's full tilt this week, fellas. It is full tilt this week. Now, obviously, the big game on deck, right? The big game on deck. And that's LSU, Florida State. LSU, Florida State Sunday. Who y'all taking in that real quick before I pivot? Who you taking? You taking LSU? Florida State's at home, obviously. Who you taking? LSU or Florida State?
I got to take LSU. I got to see it with FSU, man.
Okay.
I just got it. I've seen the hype. You want them to come back, and then they just let you down. So for right now, I got LSU. I just like what Brian Kelly did with the Notre Dame program. Solid coach. He just needed the horses, and I think he's got the horses with the LSU guys. So give me them Tigers. Go Tigers.
Oh, which way you landing?
I mean, I got my guy Aaron on this side.
Yeah.
I got my guy Mendoza on this side. I got my guy Eshawn in front of me, Florida State. I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan. I'm never going to pull for LSU. Not that we're pulling for these guys, but who we think's going to win. And honestly, if I remove my fandom from the equation, I'm buying this FSU team.
I am too.
I think they're going to be one of the better teams in the country, and I think some of the players we'll talk about in a second are a big reason for that. So I think LSU FSU is going to be a pretty good game. I think FSU pulls it out the end, so I'm taking FSU.
Yeah, I am a buyer of FSU. Here's the thing about coming out week 1, though. I wonder if this is a benefit for LSU playing FSU so early and not letting FSU maybe build up a little momentum. That'll be interesting part 2. But pivoting off of that, give me in that particular game, 1 or 2 guys that you're definitely looking to see what they're doing for either squad.
You want to go first, Tom?
I mean, it sucks. LSU has a defensive tackle. First name is Mason, but he's suspended.
Okay.
He is suspended. He's probably going to be about a 3rd-round player for them. But I got to take the low-hanging fruit because I was shocked that he went back to school last year. Jared Verse. It's like that's probably defensive end 1 on probably most boards. I haven't checked them out yet. But what you were able to see him do last year, a guy with actual multiple pass rush moves. He had a plan. Very savvy hands, and he's strong and he's quick off the snap. So that's the guy that you got to be looking out for in this game. Jared Verse, defensive end for those Florida State Noles.
The Noles, all right. Anybody specific you got an eye on? LSU, FSU, either side that you want to see?
Yeah, there's a few guys I want to mention. And real quick for you guys, this is the first time we're doing this segment, and we're going to do it each week. Who you should watch this weekend, because all of us Cowboys fans, I think, have become draft guys. Like it's just fun. There's so much to pay attention to, and it's hard to end the season and immediately go into draft mode. So the guys we're talking about right now, maybe 1st-round picks, maybe top 5 picks, maybe 5th-rounders. We don't really know at this point, but they're guys that we kind of have our eye on now. We're circling to keep, maybe you guys should look out for too. And if you're watching college football, maybe you're a big NFL fan and not a college guy, and you don't know which game to watch, some of the games we're going to mention, you might be like, oh, that might be worth watching because there's 2 or 3 guys I've heard of before.
Right.
So on LSU, Malik Neighbors, I think, is one of the big names people are going to talk about. He's already in the conversation for a round 1 wide receiver. It'll be interesting to see how he progresses with Jaden Daniels as his quarterback again, coming back, and that chemistry being built there. So I think he's a guy to mention. My list is a little bit deeper on the FSU side. And again, I'm not an FSU fan, but there's some guys I think that are worth mentioning. And the quarterback, Jordan Travis, is one of those guys. Like, he's a guy that, when we talk about quarterbacks, it's Caleb Williams, Drake May.
Right.
And then there's a list of like 8 guys after that are all pretty good, that might be 1st-rounders, it might be 3rd-rounders, it might be 5th-rounders. We don't really know at this point. And I think he's the guy that could be a Heisman dark horse, depending on how their season goes. And he's throwing the ball to Johnny Wilson. That's a receiver to pay attention to. He went to Arizona State originally, transferred to FSU. You will have no issue finding him on the field. If you do need help, he's number 14, but he's 6'7", 237-ish pounds as a wide receiver. He's an absolute monster. He's a Madden created player at wide receiver. So he's a guy that, if you're looking at wide receiver rooms across the NFL, like, not many, if any, teams have a wide receiver like that. He's like a tight end bodies type at wide receiver. So he's definitely somebody to mention. Another name, you mentioned Jared Verse already, so I'll go with a guy that Mendoza likes a lot, and that's a South Carolina transfer to FSU, Jaheim Bell. He's number 6, 6'3", 240-ish. He's a guy that's versatile, could do a lot. He could be a big addition to what Jordan Travis does. So I would say those guys, Trey Benson, the running back, is probably worth mentioning. But the guys that I have my eye on right now for FSU are Johnny Wilson, Jordan Travis, how he progresses this year, and Jaheim Bell.
10-4. 2 games for me outside of the big game to go see. Right? I mean, all eyes got to be in Colorado, right? It's Dion. What's this going to look like? He's the players he's brought over on the road, TCU. That's some must-see TV for me. And then I want to see the Carolinas get after it, right? The old Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina. I want to see them get after it. And, to your point, talking about some of these quarterbacks, what's going on. I mean, there's a particular guy there, Dom, that, is expected to kind of, be next, right? And kind of this is his last season here to really, solidify what he's going to do come this draft.
I'm going to hit pause for a second.
Okay.
Oh, in the back channels was like, "Hey, we gonna name a few guys. You ain't got to name them all." And then he proceeds to name all the dudes to look out for in the game. Man, that was
I'm just excited. I'm
Bruh.
excited.
man.
No, I said, okay, I was like, what is going on? What? Now we're able to see. Yeah, fair.
Yeah,
Let's
that
have
was
one game, though. There
That
you
was
go.
amazing. I was like, man, just go ahead and send the link to Mendoza. Somehow get him on camera. I know he don't want to be on camera. Mendoza would have geeked out. So you're actually going to have to repeat the question because I was just so focused on that one dude. I need
Yeah,
to slide in,
no.
though.
I
need
just
to
said a
slide
couple
in.
games. Yeah. Just a couple games, for me, that's going to be intriguing. Obviously, Colorado going to TCU.
Oh,
Deion
yeah.
Sanders starting the campaign there. And then, of course, we got the Carolinas going at it, in North and South Carolina. Drake May, obviously. But the other quarterback in South Carolina, here it is for him lined up, Dom. Like now, wherever you're going to be in this draft, you got to come
Right.
through and walk through that door.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, we were talking about the potential of him, coming out. I think that he was like a top 5 quarterback on everybody's list, playing for
He was
Oklahoma.
QB1 on that show, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
right.
all of a sudden, boom, things don't go so well. Then you get the transfer. So he's got the arm talent for a little guy. He's got the arm talent. He's got the ability to get outside the pocket, to move, to do all these types of things that you want today's quarterbacks to do, especially when they come in a bit of a smaller package. Pause if you want to do that whole thing, but. This is going to be a big season for him, so I'm interested to see exactly how well he does. But man, the game that I'm looking forward to the most, I know everybody wants to see that big showdown of the Tigers versus the Knowles, but I'm actually looking at Tennessee versus the Cavaliers of Virginia.
Okay.
And on the Virginia side, there's not many guys that I'm looking for, but the Tennessee Volunteers, they have a very interesting situation going on over there on that squad where, our Cowboys talk about positional flex, guys being able to have that versatility. I think Tennessee is definitely sipping that Kool-Aid from the Dallas Cowboys because when you look at their initial depth chart that they just put out 4 days ago, you have no clue who the starting offensive line is going to be for that team. And this is a team that lost 2 of their best offensive linemen last year, Darnell Wright being one who went first round to Chicago. But whenever I look at that squad, it's like, man, they got a number of guys that I saw last year that performed well. And the first game I go to is the Alabama game. Everybody talked about how Darnell Wright did his thing against Will Anderson on the right side. But if you look to the left, you would see a guy who's balling out equally as well against Dallas Turner for Alabama, who's probably going to be a top 3 edge rusher coming out this year. And I'm like, who is that guy? So I'm watching him. I'm trying to say, all right, what has he got? The whole first half just shut down Dallas Turner. And then even Will Anderson went out there and went against him. And so the guy that I'm talking about, big old dude, he's 6'5". He's listed at 320. His name is Gerald Mincey. Okay. And in fact, last year they had him listed at 337. But similar size to Darnell, he doesn't have the overall quickness and athletic ability of Darnell Wright. But he was strong, man. And he had good enough footwork. But shockingly, Miami lost their tackle who transferred into Tennessee. And so he's a guy, John Campbell, 6'5", 320. He's a redshirt senior. And they've been dueling it out so far. So on the depth chart, it says John Campbell Jr. at left tackle or Gerald Mincey. Then you go to the right side, and they got a guy named Jeremiah Crawford, who actually had to come into the game last year to play left tackle whenever my guy Gerald Mincey went down. And he did good against the Alabama guys. And then he's now competing against a guy also on that right side. We have no clue who the Tennessee offensive line is. I know their fans are a little bit concerned about that because you think somebody should have stepped up and won that competition by now. So look for that game because I know, Professor O, Tennessee is on that behind. They on that behind of them Georgia Bulldogs. They gonna come this year. They coming. They coming.
All right.
Hey, as long as they stay behind, I'm cool with that. They can come as far as they want, as long as they stay behind us in the rear view.
Didn't
Actually,
Dom
Joe
say,
Milton's a
Dom,
name worth mentioning too, though.
Dom's
I was just gonna say,
over
Joe
here.
Milton.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
Get the name out. Get the name out. Get the name out.
I was trying to I was trying to set him up from about the behind thing from weeks ago, but never mind.
I know what he's doing. There's the pause down there. Yeah, I just like how Dom was on the whole named them all, and I just learned about 18 different Tennessee offensive linemen just then.
Where they transferred from, what their favorite colors were, all that. Third grade teacher's name.
Yeah.
Dude.
Is there any other game that you're looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah, so I want to touch real quick on a player for South Carolina that actually two guys in that South Carolina North Carolina game. So we mentioned the quarterbacks, right? That's interesting to see if Spencer Rattler can bounce back, and then Drake May is already QB2 right there in that QB1, QB2 conversation. Although most of us think it'll be Caleb Williams, but I want to talk about two wide receivers. I'm not shocked. Talking about wide receivers, but South Carolina has a dude named Antoine Juice Wells, and you need to get to know this name. He's number 3 on their team, 6'1", 210-ish. He's aggressive. He has that like alpha dog. I fight for every single yard, kind of that baby Dez, Anquan Bolden, Steve Smith personality. Like he's super fun. You're gonna like him. If you haven't watched him already, you will like him. And I hate saying that because he's a South Carolina player. And then North Carolina has a good wide receiver too, named Devontae Walker. He's 6'3". He's a little bit bigger. And he's one of Drake May's top targets. But a name for North Carolina fans or people watching that game to keep an eye on is their tight end, Bryson Nesbitt. So this is a dude that has that new tight end size, not that classic, 6'5", 255 guy. He's that 6'4", 238, 240-ish type of guy that can make things happen in space that teams are kind of gravitating towards. I think Bryson Nesbitt's a name that right now people aren't really talking about, but as the season goes on, he's going to be not just a safety valve for that North Carolina offense. I think he's going to be a key cog in that North Carolina offense. So throwing his name out there right now. But a game I have to talk about because it's on tonight and it's near and dear to our heart. Emmitt Smith Jr. for Stanford is healthy. Health has been a big issue for this guy. Right now, if you're looking at like where he is in pre-season drafts and all that stuff, it's late. But he's a guy I know for a fact because I've talked to 2 NFL scouts or former NFL scouts about him. And one guy who is like a who's who in the scouting world, not from a NFL standpoint, but for the college level, said he would give a healthy Emmitt Smith Jr., a second, third round grade going into this year, if he stays healthy. So he's a name that right now might be a 6th or 7th round pick. He's not as good as his dad. Or we'll just call out the obvious there. However, he's a name that, it's a junior. He's a Cowboys alum son, so we're gonna pull for him. He's number 22 like his dad. So I would like to see him stay healthy because last year he got off to a huge start and then got hurt week 2, week 3, and missed the rest of the season. So hopefully he's healthy because this could be a big year for him. So I want to mention that game's on late. It's Stanford, Hawaii. Stanford's moving to ACC, by the way. How crazy is that? But Stanford, Hawaii, it's 11 o'clock Eastern time. So it's a late night game you can watch if you want to pay attention.
Yeah, and he played not too far up the road from me. Got to see him a couple times, and literally beat the Lobos in my town in the playoffs single-handedly, 4 touchdowns. Like the Lobos team was better than them. Didn't matter though; they had no answers for EJ. So now though, what you really put out here though is, that's why they put Tony Pollard on the franchise tag, so they can just move on and take Emmitt Smith the fourth.
Maybe.
That's
why we didn't let Deuce Vaughn get number 22, right? Because
there it is. Yeah, let's tie all the bonds together. We said it here first. We said it here first. They're letting Pollard walk to go draft Emmitt Smith's son, and that's why they kept the 23 from Deuce Vaughn. Mark it on your calendar on what was today's date again? September 1st. You heard it here first.
Yeah, so we're gonna do this as the season goes on, and I want to give a quick shout out to Dom and Mendoza in the chat. They are already pumping out prospects for this season each week. So if you follow them on Twitter, you'll see players as the season goes on, similar to what we're doing on the show. But we're gonna make sure to talk about it each week. It'll probably be a 8 to 10 minute into the show type of segment, but we want to make sure we're kind of highlighting games you probably want to watch if you're a football fan in general, and some of the names to keep an eye on. And I didn't even mention a single Georgia player, so you're welcome. Maybe next
There
week.
it is. Right. There it is. And look, and if y'all like that, it might be something we'll form into and maybe have a spin-off show during the week. So if y'all like this kind of content from the college side of things, let us know. Hit us up. DM, Twitter, comment section, wherever. Let us know. And we'll definitely continue on, down that path. You'll see about 35. Fair enough. With that being said, hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. I saw the question earlier. No, there will not be any spaces for me this whole weekend because I'm about to get out of here and go fire up Starfield, and that's where I'm going to be, out in outer space, if you will, playing Starfield, unless something breaking happens, perhaps, right? So no, there will be no space for me at all. So it is what it is. I know, Eddie, you've been begging for a college space. Talk to Dom. Dom's ready to run one. Dom will run a college space. I'll let him. He's ready. He knows.
Real quick, for those that have stuck around with us, we appreciate you guys rocking with us on a Friday night. Next Friday is the Friday before the Cowboys, and we have two guests that I'm excited to have on. I mentioned one of them last week. His name is Authentic. He does a show called Authentic in the Beard. They are Giants content creators. He's one of the cool Giants content creators. No knock to the other guys, but he's like, think of a Cowboys content creator you like in this space, and he's like that. If you're a Giants fan, he'd be one of the guys you respect. He's real cool, knows his football. He's going to give us the State of the Union, where the Giants are, where they're going, what their expectations are this season, how they potentially could beat the Cowboys, and what he thinks the score will be, all that fun stuff. And we're going to have Skywalker Steele. He was in the chat earlier today, so shout out to him and Vach. Skywalker is going to join us too next Friday night. So we have two guests excited to kick off the season with them. Just want to throw that out there now. But again, make sure if you guys want to talk trash, Authentic will be on with us. If you have questions you want us to ask, like how Giants fans really feel about a player, let us know. We'll try to ask him a few of those. He's a cool guy, though.
Big facts. Excited for it, man. All systems are a go, man. It's time to hit another gear and move everything forward, man. The season is here. All the work's done. It's, we used to have this thing, hey, pencils down. Work's done. 53 solid. Practice squad solid. It is what it is. Now it's week one, and it's time to get after it and see what this season has to come to us. Maybe that magical. It is always right before week one. I like to say the quest for 6 begins, but even better, let's get 6. Right? That's what it's all about. That's what the Cowboys are playing for, and now we turn our focus to that moving forward. So, as O said as well, man. Appreciate y'all working with us on this Friday night. Ran a little bit long because it's on a little college football, but it was only hour 17 minutes. Come on. Y'all are good. Y'all are fine. Enjoy your weekend.
Spoonie sermon coming up.
Oh, yeah. Next week, fresh from the DR, the Spoonie sermon is back for week 1. Oh, I can't wait. That's going to be epic. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, for sure. Have a safe weekend, everybody. Peace.